Meeting Horace Silver, going to his house in Malibu. I was doing a project for my degree, and I wrote Mr. Silver and said, can I come see you and talk to you about your songs? The reason I share this is because when I talked to Horace, or Mr. Silver, I was in his house overlooking the beach at Malibu. Fantastic. And I asked him about his compositions because I really wanted to know how he came about them. This song didn't come up, but I was asking about other ones that he had done. Something that you need to remember, is why I'm mentioning this, is that when he wrote, he considered himself more of a composer than he was a performer. Although he was an excellent performer, he goes, I write my songs, I want them played the way I write them. So what does that mean? That means that he would write this composition, and like the back of this part, we go, boo-doo-da, you're moving up the line like that. He would want that every time. I had friends who played with Horace, who, you know, like Song for My Father. He didn't want that changed. He wanted that bass line exactly that way every time he played it, because that was what? Part of his composition. So when you're playing his tunes, the first thing I would do is what? I go listen to Horace Silver play his compositions. Not many people outside of Horace would play a tune like this. So I would go to hear Horace play it, and I would take that as a term we use called Holy Grail. That's the Bible. Do what he did, because that's how he wanted it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you're playing this, all those little things in the background, the bass and the guitar and the piano could do, you want to have that at least known. Whether you do it is your choice, but at least know that that's there. Okay? That's one thing. First off, the group sounded good. Yeah, there's some things you can do better, right? But for the most part, you did okay. What can you tell me about this song that can help you solo-wise? What have you discovered with the melody that's important? Can you tell me?
The Dorian notes.
Okay, they're primarily Dorian. All right, that's right. Not what I'm looking for. Anything else? All right, look at the melody. The first chord is what? E minor, right? Okay, look at the melody note, the top note. What note is that? That's the what?
Qual é a nota em relação ao acorde da melodia?
Top note, what is that? That's the what?
Second eight.
The ninth?
The ninth, the second, the ninth. But let's think of it as the ninth, because it's really, going up a chord. What about the next chord you come to? What's the melody note?
The nine notes.
Ninth,
The ninth, okay.
again.
You getting to see something here? What's the next one?
Again.
Nine. What's the next one?
Again.
And the nine. What's the next one?
The
The nine. And what's the next one? It's all the ninth till you get to that last line. All right. So what can that do? That's one of the pretty notes. That's what. If I have a choice of playing a root or a ninth, I'm playing the ninth. All right. So when you're soloing, you can build your solo just off of the melody. Every time I'm playing, I'm starting on the ninth. So you know that's going to be a right note. And there's something that I've changed over the years. One of the things that I think you really should be concerned about when you're playing, like when you're improvising, you were struggling for some notes and you knew it. Where are the notes? And they're going by. I'm not sure of the scales and chords. You don't have to know the scales. Now that's a sin for some of my friends. They would say, "Oh, you got to know that first." Yeah, you do. You need to know it. I'm not saying you don't. But what you need to know is the melody. This is a good example. If you play the melody, let me enter, just you and me. 1, 2, just pretty much the melody and changing the rhythm. Can you hear that? That makes sense? So, if you're starting to play a tune you don't really know, you gotta know the melody first. You wanna know the scales and chords? Yes, yes, yes. But you need to know the melody, because think about it. I'm not sure what this word in Portuguese is, naive.
Ingênuo.
It's real higieno.
Ingênuo.
Higieno. If you think you can play a better melody than Horace Silver wrote.
Boa.
That doesn't mean you shouldn't try. That doesn't mean you can't try to do that. But you think about it, there's a lot of knowledge that Mr. Silver is giving to you that you can utilize when you solo. Now, as you learn the scales and chords, I wouldn't play like that. Let's do it again. 2. What am I doing? I'm using the first note, the ninth, but I'm not going to the ninth and the next chord. I'm going down to a note that fits my line. So the line is moving. So in my case, I'm starting off on, say, G sharp. The next note I want to land on is a G. So I'm going down.
Mm-hmm.
But those are things you need to know as you know the scales and chords. But what's most important? You gotta know the melody. If you don't know the melody, you're fooling yourself. And you're wasting a golden opportunity to sound good. All right? A lot of people for a lot of years didn't know all the stuff that we know. Even you. They didn't know that. What do? They did theme and variation. That's exactly what I would consider something that you should really think about. All right? Okay, the next thing is you do need to know the scales and chords. If you can't play the scales and chords on this, you're fooling yourself again. But you put those two together, it's far more powerful in what you're doing than just going off the scales alone. And again, what is that word again? Naive?
Ingênuo.
Ingenuo. Yeah, ingenuous. Yes, that's ingenuous. Ingenuo. Huh? I put it together, didn't I? The whole thing is, if you forget that, you're losing. You're losing a great chance of making music, and you're also dismissing knowledge you already have, and that the composer's already given you. That goes for bebop tunes. That goes for standards. That goes for everything. Okay, that makes sense? You understand?
Let me try to translate a little bit for the ones who doesn't speak English.
Okay. I'll use this on my website. You need to know the scales, right? Now I'm going to assume you know the melody. You know the melody, you understand the concept of the ninth being a really important note, especially in this tune. Now you want to learn the scales. What am I doing?
playing the scales.
I'm just playing the scale, right? And when I get to the new key, I'm not doing this. I'm not starting over every time. I'm trying to keep my line. So. Trying to keep the line going, and by doing that means you know and can anticipate what the next scale or chord is without going back to the root. Okay, now that's pretty simple because I'm playing what, eighth notes, ba ba do boo dee ba da, but pull out some notes. Okay, so you learn the scales where you can just blend like you're doing a cake. And you're doing the icing and you're smoothing it all over. You're not chopping it up. You want to translate that?
Okay. Então.
Okay, you're talking about scales. When we talk about scales, we're thinking about starting on a root and going to a root or a ninth or whatever, right? You might want to, in what Renato just said about thinking of the major key, you can do that. What I do, and I'll talk in concert now, okay? On E minor, I don't think D major, I don't think E minor, I think two sharps.
Oh, okay.
All right? When I go to the next chord, which is B flat minor, I don't think A flat major, I think four flats.
Para nós.
All right?
For pianists, make a great sense.
I'll think of four flats. Then what happens to the next chord? That B flat minor goes where? Falls down a half step. So now I have what? One sharp. So I'm looking at a relationship that's going on. If you're just now learning your scales and how to put them in a song, see this, I see two sharps, four flats, one sharp, and then everything else is going to be the same. I can mix them up. But in honesty, after a while, you won't think at all. You'll hear the line, and you'll know what's going on, and you'll anticipate, oh, it goes down a half step. Okay? That makes sense? Okay, one last thing, and then I'll shut up. We're talking only about scales and chords and notes and melody, right? What are we not talking about?
Rhythm.
What have I not spoken about?
Rhythm.
Rhythm. So you got a drummer, a really accomplished drummer, right? Let's try it. Just here we go. 1, 2. Playing rhythms, I'm taking his rhythms back, and I'm not worried about the notes so much. If I make a wrong note, I don't care. I'll fix it, but I'm really worried about him and me having a conversation. So when you're playing, that comes along down the road. There's one other thing I did. On one phrase, I remember, I like to do this. This is where I'm going. 1, 2, see if you can tell what I do when I do it. 1, there's one place where I'm taking an idea and I'm taking through the key. Whatever I play in the first chord, I'll play in the second chord. I may twist it, and then I like taking the low note and just keep going up. As far as, and when I get to the key, when I get to the new chord, I don't change direction. I keep going up. I just blend it in. So it means that I'm not having to restart every time. It's like taking your GPS, all right? And you go back to go every time. I don't want to do that. I want to keep going on a smooth path.
Yeah.
But you got to know the keys to do that.
For this, I think this CPU just gave us for thinking about the extents, the flats and
Mhm.
sharps.
Mhm.
It's good because we don't think in the fundamental of each chord.
Mm-hmm.
We think it as just one thing, you know?
If you think about the root all the time, the bottom note, that means you're always kind of restarting. But if you think of it like a sound, then you can start almost anywhere you want in that sound if it's going to work. Now, if you're in a major sound, you don't want to start on the fourth, all right? But you get what I'm saying. You think of the sound, you don't think of this, all right?
Mhm.
That's the way. And also, and Renato was right. How many keys are in this piece? If you don't know the scales, how many do you have to know this piece? Count them. Look at it. Figure it out.
I think it's
4 or
5.
You got concert E, concert B flat, concert A, concert E flat. You go back to A again, then you go to concert C minor, right? Then you have a little walk up. That
Mhm.
kind of changes things. I mean, that's Horace's way of breaking that similarity of always doing the ninth. He has that
Mhm.
moving up, and then he comes to a
It's very tonal.
Yeah.
Pa, da, da. Essa
Right,
parte do
and
mi
then,
bemol.
that is, I guarantee you, he would have the band play that every time. What does that do? It sets up the return to the beginning. So he makes a statement, statement, changes it, sets it back up and goes back.
Oh, okay. I remember something that he said in the first speech about Horace Silver's composition.
It's about
Uh,
composition. Yeah.
That you said he expect you to play the bass and the chords at the same time.
So Horace thought of a composition, and Arthur's right. There's tons of motives in here. There's tons of things you can grab onto to develop a solo. All right. Another person I talked to when I did my research was Benny Golson. Benny Golson thought the same way. He wanted his compositions played. He wanted them play the way you wrote them. Right.
Benny Golson, cara que escreveu o Killer Joe, que a gente tocou.
I remember Clifford too.
I remember Clifford because we already played Killer Joe. Tan, tan, tan. Lembra a gente tocando?
So he would want to. Then there's other people who didn't care that I talked with. I talked with 10 people that great players and band leaders. I mean, think like someone like Woody Shaw. He goes, I just saw the piece and I heard it and I started playing. It's like he was the opposite. They were free to play. They didn't. I won't say they didn't care, but they wanted people like us who knew how to play the music. They wanted us to do it. And most people would follow the form or the motifs that are there. They definitely follow the form, but the ideas that came from the composition, they would use those. But it wasn't as sacred as it was with Benny and Horace, where they wanted their compositions played. These guys, it's like a tune, you interpret my tune. A bebop tune, what's a bebop tune? Bebop tune's an etude. It's an etude with a lot of fast moving notes, and then you're free to do the same thing. So there's all kind of ways of looking at a song when you play. And if you can understand that, it makes it much easier to learn a tune. And I'll send Renato this link. On my website, there's a thing about how to learn a tune. And it's a list of things that I think are important. I'll put it in Chat GPT. I'll translate it for you. But I think it's useful because you can see how the progression of things you need to think about. Some you probably already think about. Some you don't probably think about at all yet. Okay?
Great. Okay, let's
Plenty
play.
of backing tracks, Jamie's backing tracks. There's other things on YouTube you can find. All right, that's our resource these days. I would sit down with a caipirinha, some ice cream, whatever. Sit down in a chair and just listen to the backing track without Horace Silver playing it. Just listen to what it sounds like. Because what happens, we get so absorbed with being where we are, we're thinking like this as opposed to doing this. We're not looking ahead because we don't know the song. But if you listen to the backing track, you take that away, you can hear. It's easy. Leander's doing a great job. The form is easy to hear. 8 bars, 8 bars, 8 bars, or back to 4, quattro, quattro. Okay, you go through it. You need to be able to instinctively know that, so that when you're playing, you just make it happen. But when you're doing what we did just now, your brain is overloaded. There's too much going on. You can't think of all those things at once. Mike said this, Renato said this, I want to do this, I gotta think of this, you can't do it. Don't get upset. You have to get one of them out of the way, 2 of them out of the way, and then you can start to play music on it. It's a lifetime.
Great,
Okay?
great.
on, okay, good. All right, this is like an etude. Ba-do, 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 da. It's a lot of notes, all eighth notes, right? The guitar player, the bass player, and a pianist should know the melody as well as these people. You should know that. You sit down and learn the melody like we do, because it's going to improve your technique, but it's also going to be improve what he just said about putting time in with the melody notes. Okay? That's one thing you need to know. Next thing. Yeah, go ahead.
Falou que o baixo e a guitarra, o piano, devem saber as melodias do bebop também. Porque ajuda a fazer a liga.
And the drummer needs to be ba-do, ba-do, ba-dee, ba-do, pop, boop, be-do. They can do the same thing. They have pitches on the drums. They can imply the melody with the hi-hat, with the ride cymbal, all this. They can make it sound like they're playing the melody. That's a skill that all you good drummers can do. All right, next, we need to know what they do. All right, this chart is fine. This is a good chart, but on this first measure, I would put a G7 on beat 3 and 4. So it's I would make it a 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 6, 2, 5. All right. Okay, one thing everybody has to know, how long is this song? How many measures? Trenta dois, right? Trenta dois, right? Yeah, 32. 32 measures, all right? I got it. All right, what is the form? There you go. You shouldn't have to look at this. You should know this by now. And how do you know it? Because you know the melody. The melody repeats. It does have a form thing. So once you know the A section, you know 3/4 of the song, right? Because it's 3/4 of the song. So you only have to really learn 16 measures, not 32. I'm simplifying, but that's what happens.
Entenderam a matemática? Ele está dizendo, se você, a música tem 3 vezes a mesma parte, tá? Então, na realidade, quando você aprende você aprendeu 3/4.
Okay, so let's do this. Us, Leander, why don't you play? No bass, no guitar, no piano. We're gonna play the roots. All right, 1, ba ba da 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 dee da. Right, 1, 2, for each chord. Let's go slower. 1. Bass and guitar come with me.
Okay.
Don't walk a bass line, just do what we're doing.
Só toca. The root and the second.
That's it.
Okay.
Quarter notes.
Ok?
1.
Tocar semínimas, só o primeiro e segundo grau do que está marcado agora. Tocar só fundamental, vamos tocar fundamental e primeiro grau, e segundo grau.
And when we get to it's a measure in length, you play it da 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 dee da. Okay, 1,
Ok?
2, slowly. 1. Leander, play with us. 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. idiot, right? You want to learn their part, and they should learn your part. So that when you're playing, you know what each other's doing, and you have a better way of interacting with them. All right? Now, some of this sounds funny. For example, I know what this sounds funny. It should be flat. Now, I know it sounds funny too. So you have to say, that note sounds funny. How do I fix it? Go down a half step. But the point I'm trying to make is, it's a good idea if you can learn to walk a bass line. I'll show you here a second. I'm going to walk a bass line through the piece, like on a bridge. Get my point? If you can do, and you don't have to be fast, it's slow. But what you want to do is understand how all the parts fit together. Okay, one last thing. When you're playing the A section, you don't have to look at all the chords. Count out to give me. One, You don't have to do that. You can do this. Two, What am I doing there? I'm doing a blues scale, or I'm doing a minor pentatonic. Good.
Todo mundo olha pro cara e sabe que tá falando dele.
But the thing is, you can do that, but then when you get to the bridge, which is the B section, you can't do that there. All right? So what do you have to do when you have that very first chord, the D7? What's the most important note? It's the D7. The seventh is an important note. Yes. What's the most important note? The major third. Then the seventh.
The melody.
Look at the melody. Look at the melody. What is the first note of the melody at the bridge? The third. Look at the next chord, the G7. What is an important note it gets to? There's the major third. All right? Next one. What note is that? The seventh. So you need to know these things. So let's play the bridge. Two. So when you get to the bridge, you need to know those chords. All right? There's a ton of things you can do. Bebop scales, the mini scales, all kind of stuff you can do, but you need to know when I get to the bridge, we're going to play those notes. Let's try doing this. Rhythm section, just keep playing the bridge.
Okay.
Over and over again. I'm going to yell
Só na
out.
ponte, só a parte do meio. Ré, sol, dó, fá. Ré, sol, dó, fá.
Yep, that's it. And then what we're going to do, we're only going to play the third. All right? Then I'm going to say, just play the seventh. Then I'm going to say, play the third, then the seventh. All right? 1, 2, bridge, third. All right, so it's gonna be, how now for you and me? One,
Okay.
two, See what's going on? Let's do it. 7, 3, 7,
Seven.
3. One. There you go. So the first chord, 7. Second chord, 3. Next chord, 7 and 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, D, 2. So what's happening here, you see how close those chords are. Those are the notes you need to hit to make it sound like you're making the chord changes. 7 and 3. All right, so you get, now to you and me. 1, I'm playing 7 and 3. So you really want to know those. Or how about this? 1, 2, What am I doing there? I'm playing the 5 notes, but I'm going from the 3rd to the 7th, the 7th to the 3rd. You want to lock that sound in your head, because that's what makes it go. When you get to the bridge, you've got to hit the major 3rd. All right, let's try one more thing.
Okay.
Let's play the first 8 bars over and over and over again. We need to learn the melody. 1, 2, 1. I've sat down with a song and played the first 8 measures 1,000 times. What am I doing? I'm trying to memorize it, trying not to come. You know, I don't want to go. Everything gets stumbling. You notice how how few times I'm tonguing, and sometimes it's not even a tongue, it's a skip. That's important. All right?
Great.
There's so many things we can do. I mean, there's tons of things.